What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Timeless Movie Podcast, episode number 60. My name is Omar Vazquez. Thank you so much for coming back and listening to another episode where we talk about a new movie that we checked out in theaters, and we go through a review, talk about our pros and cons, and then decide at the end if it is timeless. This episode is actually very special just because of the fact that I'm reviewing a movie that I was really anticipating and hyped for, but also because I have a special guest with me. It is the one and only, his return to the Timeless Movie Podcast, Mr. Omar Vazquez. How's it going, Omar?
It's going pretty good. Hype me up, I think, too much. I think what I have to say isn't not gonna.
Whatever you say here, man, is always going to be articulated better than I can, man. So
I don't think so. But
I'm happy to have Omar here. It took a lot of convincing. If you guys remember in the top 10, Omar said that he was only going to come back for the special
once a year.
Once a year, special type of movies.
Yeah.
I worked my way to try to get him back on, and I finally got him back on as well. So, Omar, again, thank you so much for coming back. As I had mentioned, on this specific podcast, we're going to be reviewing the newest film by Denis Villeneuve, and that is Dune Part 2. It has been one of the highly anticipated movies. It actually was meant to come out in November of 2023, but it got delayed due to the different strikes that occurred in Hollywood. But now it has released, it has come out to the public, and me and Omar are going to basically dive in and talk everything about this movie, whether we liked it or not.
and which is crazy that it was going to come out last year.
Yeah.
Considering like there were so many.
Yeah.
I feel like last year had a bunch of good movies.
Yeah.
So imagine coming out, because this is like a film made for IMAX, like 70 millimeter, and Oppenheimer also another film made for IMAX. So imagine like two IMAX made films coming out the same year. Dude,
and then like it's a good point. Even when you were like saying like 2023, like how crazy that year was of like Across the Spider-Verse, Iron Claw, Godzilla. There was so many different movies like that. And that was one thing I think that we talked about too, is like if it would have come out in 2023, where would you have ranked it? You know,
that's tough.
So
thank God it didn't come out last year.
Thank God we don't have to decide that right now.
That's just a hypothetical.
Yes. But again, we'll go ahead and really dive into our thoughts, pros and cons, and then give you really what we would really consider of Dune Part 2 and whether it's timeless for us. Again, this is all really just personal opinion, but definitely let us know your comments and your thoughts down below of this video. Before we dive in to Dune Part 2, I actually want to toss it to Omar, and I want him to actually tell me what his thoughts were for Dune Part 1. He didn't rewatch it. I actually did rewatch Dune 1 before I watched Dune Part 2. So Omar, what did you think about Dune Part 1 after you've seen it the first time?
Now, there's a reason I didn't rewatch it, okay? And it's because I didn't like it. I don't like movies where there are cliffhangers or movies that are obviously broken down into two parts. So, like, first thing that comes to mind is Hunger Games, Mockingjay Part 1 and Part 2.
Yeah.
I hated Part 1 because I don't like how it doesn't feel like a complete movie to me.
Yeah.
I didn't like Across the Spider-Verse. I did like it, but I did like it, but I would have liked it more if it were more complete.
Yeah.
That's what I felt about Part 1. As soon as the opening title came out and it said Part 1, oh man, I got so nervous. I was like, no, it's gonna be a half movie. So that's why I didn't rewatch it. And I also felt like I kind of knew what had happened.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like too much happened.
Yeah. You told me that constantly like that. Like, hey, it's like, I don't really feel like there was much things accomplished in the first part, you know?
I was kind of convinced you could have stuck these two together. Before I watched this movie, I was convinced you could have stuck these two together. And now after watching this, I don't think that's possible.
Yeah.
So that's how I felt before watching this movie. But visually, I mean, the first one, just like this one, incredible.
Yeah.
Like, I would have rewatched it just to see the visuals again.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why I didn't rewatch it. So I kind of went into this second movie almost fresh,
clean slate,
and which is good because we have like two perspectives. You have you who's watched
the
movie before this, and you have me maybe representing like an audience member that hasn't seen any Dune movies.
Exactly, coming in like standalone, like this is it. You know,
you get to see if both you who's rewatched it, me not having rewatched it, see if we both like it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
man. I'm a little bit different from Omar. Again, like I was able to rewatch it before the second one came out. Again, I gave my thoughts in, I think it was episode 12 of my podcast. So if you guys want to check it out, I'll definitely try to put that link in there as well, just to give you like a little bit of the spark notes. I enjoyed the first one. I was with Omar. It felt like it was very much like a very quick ending. It didn't really feel like hold on, like I feel like I've only gotten chapter 1 and chapter 2, and I should be getting like a chapter 3 or it's like an act 1, act 2, act 3. I didn't get the third act or like what would happen here. But the more I watch Dune 1 and the more I know that there's going to be a second piece to it that will all really connect the dots, just makes me appreciate the movie a little bit more as well. So, but yeah, those are kind of, again, our thoughts of Dune 1. So let's go ahead, Omar. Let's dive into Dune Part 2. We watched it opening night. We went to Dolby Cinema. We really are trying to see like what's the best experience. There's a lot of people that recommend IMAX 70 millimeters as well. Might be another potential option to watch it again. But I'll start it off right here, Omar. My initial thoughts, and Omar and I have only discussed this movie very small little details. I think we try to save it just to have this discussion. But to me, this movie was incredible. I was, my expectations were pretty high, just because of the fact that like the first one ended the way it did. That I'm like, okay, you set up this entire world, you set up these characters, you set up exactly the situation that these characters are facing in regards to maybe a potential war. I'm expecting something pretty big, because if this movie ends with another cliffhanger like the first one did, I'd be pretty bummed out. I almost think that if it didn't end the way that it did in this part, it would have actually made me think that the first movie was even like worse of an experience.
Right.
And so I'm lucky that it didn't do that. And it actually just blew my expectations like that. Just because of the fact that they not only kept the same characters and kind of continue to kind of, world build a little bit, but now they were able to explore all these different characters. They were able to explore their actions. They were able to kind of just do a lot of the things that, again, the first one just couldn't do, because they just had to throw everything at you. Here's all these characters. And this one, it just right from the beginning, it just sets you back into that mood, and it just keeps going and going. And it's paced really well at the beginning. And then the third act, just that to me was probably one of the craziest experiences like that, of like knowing how it just hits a big climax, and it just how it ends is amazing. So to me, it was a great experience. It was great watching it with everybody around us in Dolby Cinema. I really, really enjoyed watching Dune Part 2. And I'm just so happy that the movie just landed everything that they was trying to kind of, shoot at, right? Like it's everything that they shot at for like the characters, the cinematography, everything just landed for me. But that was my experience. I loved Dune Part 2. Omar, what did you think? Overall, high level thoughts?
Yeah, I actually do feel the same way.
Yeah.
And actually, the opposite from you, I did not have high expectations. I actually had low expectations. Yeah. I was a bit of a hater for this movie. Like, I'll admit it. Yeah. I did not expect this movie to be good. I thought this movie was just like I thought it was more just a visual piece. Yeah. It looks beautiful, but is the story actually, or I feel like the story is the first one. I think they're trying to go like too ambitious. Like they're trying to make this
too out there.
Yeah. And it seemed a little try hard to me.
Yeah.
So
not artsy, but
try hard. But and that's how I was going into the movie. Yeah. But I wasn't trying to let that affect my like, don't get it twisted. I'm not trying to let it affect my
your rating or anything.
Yeah, my rating or like how I was feeling while I was watching it. No, but yeah, you're right. As soon as it started, this movie, and it's incredible. I love the movie. Simply just the visual aspect gets you hooked. It looks incredible. I think it's one of the best looking movies I've seen. It's one of the, we have to see this movie in IMAX 70mm because
it's a must.
It just looks incredible.
It almost takes you out. Do you feel like it almost takes you out of like what you're living in, and then it almost drops you into like you're actually on Arrakis like that? Like that's how I felt. Yeah, I don't know if you felt the same way, but like I felt like because of how the shots, everything on the set looks realistic like that. Nothing looks CGI, visual effects. Everything looks clean.
Right. Like we can talk about like the worms. Yeah. The sandworm. Obviously they're CGI. Yeah. But they don't take you out of the experience.
They don't.
Like, it's not bad CGI. It looks really, really good. Yeah. Like you're still immersed in the movie, even when these huge sandworms are coming out and they're doing out of this world like
events and actions like that.
It doesn't take you out of the experience because it looks so good.
And you believe it.
Yeah.
And it's like, man.
And the stories, I mean, given that this is a book, I feel like books have their plots are a little more complex.
Yeah.
They're not so straightforward, not so simple as movie plots. So I was kind of worried the story will kind of be like pushed to the side
And
to focus on the visual.
Yeah.
And it's not, and I think it has to do with the book because, like I said, books are a little more.
The complex storytelling like that is what really matters.
So the story is actually really good too.
Yeah.
I liked it all. I like the performances. I like the story. I like the visual.
That's a great way to put it. Like that is that the good thing that Denis Villeneuve and the team have like a story that they can at least follow or adapt in a way so that they know that like yes, we know that this is gonna look beautiful in IMAX, but we want you to really focus on this character and what he's thinking, what he's doing,
right? And what the character goes through isn't like a simple.
Yeah.
Like we haven't seen really. Are we gonna start talking about the movie now, or
let's do it, man? Let's do it. Yeah. If you want, I'll start with my pros.
What's the next segment?
Let's do pros. I can start with my pros if you want. Spoiler warning for anybody that has not seen Dune Part 2. Again, if you have not seen it, please leave. We don't want to spoil anything. Me and Omar are going to dive into some things just to kind of explore a little bit more about our thoughts. So again, warning: if you have not seen Dune Part 2, please leave. Then come back and then hear our thoughts as well.
Like the video and then leave.
And then exactly. And then subscribe as well. Okay, cool. Hopefully that gave you enough warning. Omar, I'll start with my pros. My first pro is the story arc of Paul Atreides, played by Timothée Chalamet. I can call that out right now. That the way that they were able to, now that, like I mentioned before, Dune Part 1, they're setting up the story of why is he involved in this kind of prophecy or destiny type of a path. Right? Who is his father? Who is his mother? Like, what is he like as a character? And then in the second one, you're now allowed to basically explore. And what I love most is that you're able to explore what he actually thinks of the prophecy too.
Yeah.
Because, like, there's so much of the first one where he's like, you don't really know if, like, he really wants to believe it or not. And this one, you make it very clear like that. He doesn't want to be the Messiah. He doesn't want to be the one that leads all these people like that. All he wants to do is be a part of the Fremen who live in Arrakis. And then how that all ends up going and turning at the end where he eventually makes the heel turn. And it looks like a heel turn like that, where he now seems like he understands that what needs to be done. He now looks like he wants to be a leader when before he never wanted to be a leader. And it was beautiful how they told step by step like that. And again, what's cool is that every scene that Paul Atreides comes out in, he comes out and then like, again, you see him battling against himself. And then by the end, you see no hesitation like that. No, like you see him just very clear-minded like that. I know what I have to do. This is what I have to do. And this is how I'm going to basically lead my people to paradise, is what he said.
And what I like about this is that he's not doing this because, he's a hero and this is what he has to do. No, like, it's just completely unexpected because he's not being a hero, actually.
Exactly.
He's actually kind of being a villain.
Yeah.
He looks kind of like a villain.
And the actions that he's doing seem like very villain-like. And I'm like, oh, man.
And that's what I like about it. It's not such a straightforward story that's been retold so many times. No, this is different. This
changes it.
Yeah, a little unexpected.
Yeah, I like it. So that was my first pro. I think that was the main thing that, like, after we watched the movie, that was the thing that like stuck out to me. Second for me was the music. Hans Zimmer is always a beast at anything that he does, and the music just kind of again elevates a lot of the different scenes. But also, what I like to say is music / the sound design of the movie. When he's on the sandworm, was incredible. How they shot that, but also how it sounded with the sand just hitting like that. In the theater that we were at in Dolby Cinema, it sounded like there was actual sand like hitting it like that, and like our seats would rumble. But also, one of my favorite parts was in the fight scenes where there was no music. Oh. And you would hear their footsteps like, and then like you would hear the knives clash.
The blades, yeah.
And it's like even those scenes where like there's no score, there's no music, you just hear the raw action. And I was like,
and you know what? If I could add something to that,
yeah, please.
Yeah, there's no music, and did you feel like the sound design for the blades made them feel heavy?
Yeah.
Did you notice that?
I did not notice that.
Like usually, like in movies, you'll see people wielding swords or knives. And they look light because they're swinging them so like freely.
Yeah.
And in that final fight scene, the blades they looked and felt heavy.
Yeah.
And so it looked scary when they were
battling
their blades around.
Almost like representing that like how much consequence there is, almost like that with like these types of fights.
It makes it more real.
Yeah. And the consequences that could occur with one of these characters if they get stabbed by one of them or like any of that nature. So that was. Yeah, that's a good point. Like I didn't pick up on that. Like sounded like the actual clashing, but if we watch it again, I'm definitely gonna hear it now too. And then last one for me, apart from the story arc, apart from the sound design and the music, you called it out. The cinematography, so some of the shots, there's some crazy shots where like things are blowing up on the background and the characters moving like that. And it looks so realistic, like if it's actually crashing down. And like it goes back to what Omar said, where the visual effects, it is a big part of the movie, but you're so invested in the characters and you're so invested as to what the story is going to tell you that there's so many visuals that like there's things of like a ship crashing down, or you have like Paul Atreides, you know, his figure silhouette is fading, and you can see what he's looking at. He's looking at the entire empire like that he's about to destroy in some way. And so there's like so many beautiful shots that I'm probably forgetting in the top of my head that I'm thinking of now. But I have to call out the way that they shot this film with IMAX or with any kind of shot that they designed. It was just beautiful. Even the opening act, the way that the sand, how orange it looked, how like beautiful the colors were represented. And it's just a planet of sand like that. That's all Arrakis is like that, but they're still able to make it pop in a great way. You know, their eyes coloring blue is almost like a perfect contrast. It's like, man, it's just a beautiful movie to look at. And so that was my last pro on that side.
And I'll start talking about my pros.
Yeah, please.
Because my first pro is also going to be like the cinematography.
Yeah.
And just to jump off what you said, that first scene when they're in the sand, and that whole sequence is all orange.
Yeah.
And it looks great. I love when like there's like specific colors to the scenes. And also, again, with the sound, there's this, what's that army called? The army they're fighting.
Oh, the Harkonnens?
Harkonnens?
Yep.
They're all on top of the cliff, the little plateau.
Yep.
And they start shooting them down.
Yep.
And then we get the point of view from Paul Atreides, and their bodies are just crashing on the floor. And it sounds so loud, and it kind of scares you every time a body falls to the floor.
There's definitely a jump scare like that, like because it just comes out of nowhere, like
and then just one after another. Yeah, so the cinematography, the sound, it's great. The whole movie looks beautiful. So that's obviously my first pro. Another pro, you talked about the story. I like what they did with like the prophecy.
Yeah,
and it was almost like a commentary on religion. You have the Fremen who are, it's like a commentary on, it doesn't tell you whether religion is good or bad, but you kind of see the side effects to it, or you see the cause and effect of it.
Yeah.
Like this prophecy, this Messiah brings the Fremen together, and together they're able to become more powerful than the Harkonnens, who are this, they're more advanced than the Fremen.
Yeah.
But they're able to band together through this prophecy. But you see also the downside to this. Yeah. Paul Atreides' mom is able to almost brainwash everybody, take control, and now she's a Reverend Mother, and you don't know what she's gonna do with this power. And then we go back to the visions that Paul Atreides is seeing. He's seeing the Fremen dying, because he's the Messiah. Maybe he's causing this, and also this prophecy is made up. Yeah. We don't know if it's real or not.
We don't know where it came from.
We don't know where it came from. Or they keep saying that it was introduced to the Fremen to control them. Yep. But yet it's working in their favor. But then Paul Atreides is kind of becoming
the prophecy and the Messiah.
And so I like this commentary where it's you can kind of see it in real life.
Yeah.
With religion. So I really like that part about the movie. You want to say something?
Yeah, I do, man. That was a great point, dude. And this is why I have you on the podcast right here, man. This is the reason like that. Because Omar brought up a good point, and I didn't even think about that. They even show both sides. They show the side of Shawnee, played by Zendaya, who does not believe in the prophecy.
For doubters.
And then you have like Javier Bardem's character, Stilgar, who he is all in. He's like, he at first seems like he's like, I don't know. And then as soon as he sees signs of what Paul Atreides does, and how humble he is, how he doesn't want to be the Messiah, and he goes and he believes, and so they do a really good thing about like how Omar described what real life is. People, there's always going to be people that are not going to believe. There's going to be people that believe all the way.
And usually the younger people, if you notice.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Shawnee and her friends, they're kind of the younger people of the tribe. They're doubting this.
And then Stilgar, the older folk,
and in the southern tribes, they're more recluse. They're older. They believe in this. Yeah. And this is like it's like real life.
Yeah.
So I really like that about the movie.
That was great. Yeah. Great call, man. Any other pros that you had on that one? You said like, I know that we had matching ones like cinematography and like sound, you know, the prophecy and how it was explained. Anything else that kind of pops up in your mind in regards to what you most enjoyed about the movie?
I guess costume.
Yeah.
Costume's really good.
Yeah. Right? I really dig the design of what the Fremen wear like that. Like their whole suit, like the style is like.
You know what I really like? The water that they have to. Dude, I just remember right now when what's this guy's name? The leader of the tribe, Javier.
Oh, Stilgar.
When people want to cry, when like the mom wants to cry, and he's like, no, don't waste your tears, don't waste your water for the living or something.
Yeah.
Or like when she wants to throw up, and he's like, hold it in.
Yep.
Because it's like a small little detail, but it speaks a lot because it shows you how important any liquid is in where they're living.
And it brings you back into the world too. It makes you think like, oh man, like you can't waste anything like that. You can't waste any saliva, any spit, or anything.
Or like when the bodies they kill, or they take the water from their bodies, so they can keep surviving.
That's right.
I really like that.
Yeah.
But anyways, going back to the costumes.
Yeah.
Costumes are all great too. Obviously, like every nation's gonna have their own
unique
look.
style. Yeah.
Like the Harkonnens are gonna be. It kind of reminds me of like bondage stuff.
Yeah. Like all black, like that, like
leather,
like almost armor, kind of like very bulgy armor, like that, and like a way,
like the Emperor and Florence Pugh, very shiny and
elegant, like that. Yeah,
all that is perfect.
Nice, man. That's a good call out, like that. Yeah, the costume design is always cool, like that. I think I'm already thinking about Halloween and what I'm gonna dress up as, like that. I would be so down to dress a Fremen. There's a Fremen like that. They have that kind of costume. I'm already down for that. So
you could put sand all over yourself.
Oh man, Mr. Ohm, let's move over to cons. I'm not gonna lie. We watched this movie on Thursday when it came out. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It's been 5 days since we've seen this movie.
Okay.
I honestly can't think of a con like big enough to like make me think the movie's like maybe a grade below or anything of that nature. I probably have nitpicks. The only nitpick that I could think of was when they were on the planet of Arrakis and they find out that they have atomic bombs. I don't know if that was just like very neatly like they put that in the story, like in a way of like how did you know that you like when did you plant these atomic bombs like on this planet that isn't yours? Why would you plant bombs on that place? Maybe it went over my head and I wasn't really paying attention as to like how they had these stored here. But I thought it was like pretty convenient that they had atomic bombs that they could then send off at the final act of the war. Well, that's for me pretty much the only thing that I can really think of. Now, I'm not going to say that it's like a 10 out of 10 movie because there's probably other things, right? Like there's other like maybe little details of like, oh yeah, compared to like maybe The Dark Knight or other films that I think of like that I really hold up to higher regard. But I honestly can't think of a lot of things that like to nitpick on. Besides that one, it's not even a big nitpick. It's just like it was pretty convenient that you had atomic bombs here to use at the end of the film like that.
Like they do explain it. I don't remember really the reason either. I know that like the grandfather.
Yeah. Okay. So that probably went over my head. Somebody had to have planted it, but like why Arrakis and then why there? I guess that they understand that spice is very important, so they knew that a war was eventually going to come, right? But again, that was probably my own thing, and it's probably on me because I didn't pay attention to that detail.
I agree. Like whatever the reason, obviously this is all made up.
Yes.
So like. The writer for this can make up whatever reason
exactly
to have the atomic bombs here. It's still convenient to have atomic bombs there.
Yeah,
like I'm kind of the same as you. Like my cons, I don't really. All I could think of is like at some points during the movie, I did feel like because there's so much content and only so much limited time, I did feel sometimes it was rushed or not rushed, but I just feel like there was so much sometimes. Yeah. Where I could be like, oh, this is happening quicker than I expected, but I guess there's no other option. Like, the movie can only be so long.
Yeah. Even though I felt like the pace was good, though. Like, I felt like the pace was like, it moved along pretty well. But I could see that it still could get overwhelming because they're jumping to so many different things.
Like sometimes there's some scenes where they would jump to things, and I partially thought it was a dream or a vision. Yeah. Because it was happening so quick. Like, they introduce something, and then the next scene, it's happening already.
Yeah.
Like the first thing that comes to mind is when right before Paul Atreides is about to drink that
the water of life. Yep.
They talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about going to the Southern Tribe, and then all of a sudden he's there already. In the pit, ready to drink the water.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought it was a dream, a vision, but I was like, oh no, this is actually happening now. So I feel like it's kind of just a consequence of having so much to show.
Yeah.
But that would be like my only con, maybe.
Yeah.
Not enough room to breathe.
Yeah. No, I'm with that. Yeah, like you said, there's just so much that they have to follow from the story and adapt from the story that some things are just gonna have to move along quicker than others, right?
Yeah.
Like some introductions of characters are gonna have to move like that, and then like consequences of that nature. But I mean, that should probably tell you how much that me and Omar love this movie. Is that we have obviously way more pros and cons, and we can barely think of any cons that come up. So, okay, awesome, Mr. Rome. Any final thoughts on the movie like that? Anything else that you would probably want to throw out there that we probably haven't talked about? Anything that can kind of think of your mind? The only thing I can think of that I'll throw you from my side is that did you notice that both movies start with a female character that Paul Atreides will eventually interact?
Well,
Did you tell me that?
No, I was gonna say that I didn't even watch the first movie before this.
That's right.
I don't even remember. I don't remember the opening scene for the first movie.
Okay, well I'll tell you like that because you didn't watch it. The first movie actually starts with Zendaya's voice, Shani, talking about why they're getting taken over by the Harkonnen and how they left. In this movie, it's Florence Pugh's character who basically starts it and gives a recap of how the House of Atreides fell, how the Harkonnens basically were trying to make a play for it, what the Emperor was going to do. And what's funny is that I thought that it was so cool that in the first movie, Shani really only comes out until the end, and it only comes out in visions of Paul Atreides.
Yeah.
And in this one, Florence Pugh's character, she's a real character. She doesn't come out in any visions from what I remember, but she only comes out at the end.
Yeah, her only significance is the pause at the end.
And only to be proposed to like that. And so I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool, yeah.
Little details of like here and there like that of like, oh yeah. And the other thing I want to call out is like I feel like there was a lot of comparisons from like the first movie to the second movie of like things that maybe came out as like a vision to Paul that maybe were in some way kind of I guess fulfilled here, but it was different in some way. The biggest one that I can remember is this fight scene where you see somebody like, in the first movie, you see somebody like cut through a bunch of Harkonnens like that, and then eventually the mask pops up and it's Paul Atreides breathing really hard. And in this movie, there's a scene like that where Shani is the one going through. She's cutting through, and then she does the exact same move. It stops, and it stops on her face, and she's the one breathing like that. So it's like almost like the visions are in a way playing out, but a different path. So it's like so.
Do you think like there's some significance to that?
Possibly with
like
what
the
visions
are changing.
Yeah.
Or what's the future is changing.
Exactly. I think it's like what the vision is not like what's gonna happen. It's like a potential path like that. Yeah. Depending on the choice that Paul makes.
Ooh.
And so, yeah.
Maybe like theory. Maybe if he didn't drink the water of life, maybe that would have been him cutting down the Harkonnens.
Exactly. Yeah, but he would have been maybe in that kind of a point of like action. But
that's pretty good.
Those are just things that ran through my head in regards to that. But that's all I got really for the overall thoughts. I think you and I covered a lot of the pros and cons pretty well. Again, any other final kind of thoughts on your side that you want to throw out there?
No, nothing else.
Nice. Again, I don't know what Omar will think of this, but I would highly recommend this as a movie that you shouldn't wait for streaming. I would recommend you watch this in theaters. If possible, find an IMAX 70mm. If you can't, Dolby Cinema was still really cool to experience it as well. But I would recommend it, Omar.
Must see in theaters, I think.
Yeah, you have to check this out. It is definitely a great movie. All right, now that we've talked about our overall thoughts, pros and cons, let's jump into the next piece, which is our favorite performance of the film. Omar and I have not, again, talked about this piece of it and the next segment as well. So, again, I'll start, and then Omar, I'll pass it off to you. My favorite performance is Timothée Chalamet as Paul Atreides. I was again, his story arc in this entire Dune Part 2 film was amazing to me. Because you can see the difference of how he starts the movie and how he ends the movie. Mm-hmm. It's just incredible like that. Again, he starts very sincere. He's the sweet kid. He's the kid that, again, he just wants to be a part of the Fremen and help them in some way. And by the end of the movie, he's now almost falling into the role of a leader and a messiah. Mm-hmm. He's believing in that messiah prophecy from what it looks like. Again, I don't know if there's another play that he's doing, but he seems like he's buying into the messiah. And like it just... The way that he uses that voice on the Reverend Mother like that, when he's like, silence, like that, it's just like the confidence that he has and he looks like that in battle. How he performed like that was awesome. And then it makes me even more appreciative of his performance compared to Dune Part 1. Because in Dune Part 1, my favorite performance was actually Lady Jessica, his mother. Mm-hmm. What she did in the first movie was incredible like that, like the emotion she would show. And Paul Atreides is actually like a character that like, I think I enjoyed Josh Brolin's character. I enjoyed Jason Momoa's character. In the first movie, there was so many characters to enjoy, and Paul Atreides was like a secondary character, and he was a star.
Do you think they did it on purpose?
Maybe
to like really
to emphasize
his like leadership role now.
That makes sense, because in the first movie, like I'm telling you, he was probably like the fourth, fifth character that I thought about like that, and it wasn't, his performance wasn't bad. It was just so many other people were much more interesting. Here, he was just like the main person to look at every time he was on scene. He was just like, you had to focus in on him. Again, and everybody did a great job. Again, I would also give an honorable mention to Zendaya, who plays Shani. She did really good in this movie, because she actually had a significant part as compared to the first one. But to me, it has to be Timothée Chalamet. I mean, the way that, again, that turn, how he almost looks like he's like buying into this whole destiny and prophecy. It was, to me, it made me believe, and it shocked me, Omar. I'm not gonna lie, it shocked me that, because you can see the details of like what would happen if he did it, and I was like, I still don't think he's gonna do it. And then he does turn like that, and I'm like, I didn't expect it like that, and they made me believe it in that kind of a way. That could be the story, but I feel like his performance also helped me believe in like him wanting to turn that way. That was my favorite performance. Omar, what do you got? What's your favorite performance?
Well, this is actually really hard. There really is so many people that performed really good. I feel like I always go towards the actor I like the most.
Yes.
and I really like Javier Bardem.
Oh, Bardem? Yeah, Javier Bardem. Yeah. His Stilgar character.
Because he's always cool in every movie he's in. Yes. And even in this movie, he's like, him and Josh Brolin, like when Josh Brolin came out, his role wasn't that big, but when he came out, it's kinda, so big. You kind of steal the scene sometimes, like just seeing him there.
Like trying to convince Paul to like lead that, and like hey, you have to,
like, he kind of represents Paul's Atreides side still. Yeah, because he's more like, as the movie goes on, he becomes more Fremen. And Josh Brolin comes in, and then he represents like the Atreides side, because like Paul, he's kind of between two worlds right now. Yeah,
dude, that's a great way to put it like that. And you have Stilgar, Javier Bardem, who's basically the Fremen, his Fremen almost like father figure like that. And then you have you know, like you have Gurney or Josh Brolin. He's again, like, you have almost two father figures that he's trying to like, okay, like, who do I listen to, right? Like, so that's a good call out.
And then Josh Brolin he's just cool. He is. Like, he has a great voice, yeah.
Doesn't it, like a side note, doesn't it feel like when you hear his voice, don't you just think of Thanos? And Thanos, like, oh man.
And then Dave Bautista.
Oh,
dude, I like Dave Bautista in that movie, because he wasn't his usual like strong leader role. He's kind of this drunk
brute like that.
No, he kind of showed like fear, laziness. Yeah. He wasn't like his usual role. And it was like interesting to see him play like a weaker character. Yeah, like even though how big he is, he still plays this like very the fact
weak.
That Austin Butler's character was able to have him kiss his feet. And he's the bigger guy. Yeah, and so, and Austin Butler's also, like, I saw like people say this performance is one of the greatest movie villains, or really he joins the ranks with one of the greatest movie villains. Okay. I disagree though.
Yeah, I wouldn't put him up there as like one of the greatest villains of all time.
Because you know what, he plays like a psychotic, like sociopath. Yeah, but I feel like that character is easy to make.
Or it's very comparable to other psychotic villains that we've
like
seen.
Obviously, first comes to mind is Joker.
Exactly,
and that's what people. I think people are like, that's what they mean. Yeah, but I think that character is like, it's like easy to make interesting and cool to see. Yeah. Like his character was cool to see. Exactly, it was a good character. Yep.
But I don't know about.
I feel like we've seen before. We've seen that character before.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this, like that's a good example. But I remember when we watched The Dark Knight for the first time, you were legit interested and scared of what the Joker was going to do next. Yeah. And here,
it's kind of the same, no?
It kind of feels like that, but I was never like to a point of like oh crap, like at what point is he gonna snap, right? Like that, like, or it never kind of scared me the way that the Joker did. Right. The Joker, to me, like I never knew, he was so chaotic that I didn't know what his next move was gonna be. For Austin Butler's character, and his name is like I think it's Fade Rotha. I just never knew. Like I kind of feel like, okay, yeah, he is psychotic, but I never thought he was gonna do something like crazy like that. Like never do like something out of the ordinary.
I did feel that a little bit.
Got it
with him. I thought it was effective enough.
Yeah,
but I feel like if he were like the main villain the whole movie and they built him up more, I think he could have reached that Joker level.
You know what? You're making me bring up like maybe a small nitpick. I kind of wish he had more time.
Yeah. I think they introduced him too late.
Yeah, I feel like we had already gotten like an hour into the movie before we got to see him. If they would have maybe spread that out a little bit more,
yeah, because in the final battle with him and versus Paul Atreides, I kind of thought he was going to win.
Yeah,
because I was like, there's no way they're gonna kill him off that soon.
Yeah,
and they
they did.
I was like, oh damn, he didn't really last that long. It's crazy.
I also thought that like if it would have been so cool, and this is just me like thinking of like how like I would have added it too. Remember that when they made him do the same box as Paul Atreides?
Yeah.
It would have been cool if they would have made him almost like that same kind of path like that.
But
of
like opposite.
But opposite. The evil side.
Like, yeah, kind of mirrored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they did that and I was like, are they going to just try to mirror what they did to Paul Atreides at the beginning in Dune Part 1? But they didn't. You know, they did some similar things. So, Omar, you called out Dave Bautista. You called out Josh Brolin. You did Javier Bardem, even Austin Butler. Who's the one? If you had to choose one,
damn,
you had to choose one.
Javier Bardem.
Nice, I dig it. I don't know if you know, there's a lot of memes about his character like that.
Really?
Because remember how he started believing in the actual Messiah? I think it was like Lisan al Gaib, and then and then I think there's even one where I don't know if you remember the scene where Paul Atreides says like, "I don't want to be the Messiah," and then later on in the conversation he goes, "The Messiah is so humble."
Yeah,
that's how he knows he is.
And that was like a legit funny scene.
It was like stuff like that. But it's because Javier Bardem, his delivery is just like
perfect.
It's so good.
Like it treats it super serious.
It does.
It's like a funny line.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, those were our favorite performances, man. You could literally choose anybody on the list, and everybody would.
Everybody's good.
Yeah.
And this has nothing to do with performance. It's just a random scene I just thought of right now.
Yeah, tell me, man.
Like when they're in like the Coliseum and Austin Butler's character is killing all these guys.
Yep.
I love that the planet they're on has a black sun.
Yeah.
And everything is black and white.
Yes.
Dude, that looks so cool.
That's another thing of the cinematography that I'm glad that they showed like that, like different colorways of different planets or nations that they're on. Good call out, man. Good call out. Omar, you called out a favorite scene or random scene, right? I think this is a perfect segue into our favorite scene or moments of the movie. Again, I'll start off and then Omar can kind of just jump in with any of his favorite moments. I'm going to cheat. I don't have a favorite scene.
What?
I think I have a favorite moment, and I think it's like the third act. I think as soon as they launch those atomic bombs and that war starts, all the way to the end, my heart was like bumping really fast. I was engaged all the way because I didn't know what the heck was going to happen.
Yeah.
And the final battle that you just called out between Paul Atreides and Austin Butler's character, Fade Rotha, I legit thought they were going to kill off Paul Atreides like that. And I was like, is it really going to, like, they're really going to kill the main character that we followed for 2 movies? In my mind, I was like, that would be so cool if they did. Because, like, you know, you'd never see that, like, that often in these stories. That whole battle and that whole third act in that war was, I'm trying to think of, like, another third act that as soon as it starts and then as soon as it finishes, it has, like, that much adrenaline and energy. Like, the only thing I can kind of think of is maybe, like, John Wick. Like, because of how much is going on in John Wick and like, the action that's going on. This had such a similar feel that I was blown away. This is probably one of my favorite third acts like that I've ever seen like that. It just starts with like so much. And like I mentioned before at the beginning, I feel like they paced the movie so well that at the beginning, I feel like it's kind of moving along, but it's not quick like that. It's not like a lot until that third act hits. And then I feel like it starts like just going really fast like that, showing you like, okay, the atomic bombs go off. You start seeing them, you know, taking out all these Harkonnen soldiers. And then they finally capture the Emperor. And then they had the final battle. And then, like, it's just, there's just so much of that. That whole sequence, that, whatever it was, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or however long that third act was, that's for me, the best part of that movie like that. And I can see myself getting so excited to watch it again just to get to that point again. But it was amazing for me. So again, I copped out. I don't have a favorite scene or one specific moment. To me, it's that third act that was just unbelievable like that made it like one of my favorite movies like that just because of that. Like, it's just the energy, and I love it when movies can make my heart race a little bit like that, get me excited. I was like, oh man. And the fact
that like the Emperor is there,
yes, and
they captured him, you know? Like, that's how strong they've got him. It
made me think, like, if they captured him, what the heck is going to happen like that? What's the twist like that that's going to be able to go down? And I'm like, oh.
Like, you got the leader of the Harkonnens there, you got the Emperor there, and they still can't, and the Fremen are there taking over. Yep. It's a cool feeling.
What about you, Omar? What's your, even though, again, I copped out, I probably got a big chunk of the movie. What was your favorite scene or moment, if you have any, that you haven't maybe described?
The intro scene is one of my favorite ones. And also when he first rides the sandworm. I feel like that scene is like when there's no music in that one either. He walks up the dune. Zendaya's like watching. Everybody's nervous.
Yep.
You get a close up on everybody's face. Once you see the movement from the back, and then we were in Dolby Cinema, so the whole theater started shaking when the worm was approaching, and you were actually scared too.
Yeah.
And then when he rode the worm, and you said it before how they filmed it, like it felt like you're on the back of the worm. And that was probably my favorite scene in the movie.
Great scene, dude. And like you called out the sound design, no music. You just hear the sand blowing off of the actual sandworm.
Or you hear his steps. And
or the hooks.
Or him breathing.
And this movie's incredible. All right, guys. Well, we got to the last segment. This is where me and Omar decide whether Dune Part 2 is a timeless movie. Omar, we've talked about this, all these positives, all these great things. You know, what's going to happen at this final segment, right? Are we going to switch? Are we going to like turn like how Paul Atreides did like that? Are we going to say, you know what, this maybe isn't a timeless movie?
Plot twist.
Plot twist. No plot twist here for me. Sorry, Omar. For me, Dune Part 2 is in so many ways better than the first one. Only because they don't have to world build that much in this one. You already know these characters. You already know what's going on and what it's leading to. So to me, Dune Part 2 is a timeless movie. Like we've already kind of, me and Omar have probably reiterated a bunch of times, whether it was the characters and their interactions, whether it was the story that was being told, whether it was the sound design of multiple different scenes or the visuals. There was just so many things to like about this and so little nitpicks that like it just makes it such an enjoyable movie. Even at 2 hours and 46 minutes, it didn't feel that long. And I've always told you that whenever a movie goes by super quick for me, that's already an easy tell that like this is a movie that can last many years to rewatch as well. And so again, to me, I really enjoyed my experience. You know, I already called it out. We kind of teased it. We're looking for tickets for IMAX 7mm. I want to rewatch it again. You know, again, I obviously would want to watch it as soon as I can, but I kind of really want to experience it in 70mm. But just this whole movie like that. And I think what made me enjoy more is that the ending landed so well. And like the first one, that it just gets me so excited for like what's next, like that. Where is it gonna go? And it makes me come up with theories. And I love it when a movie makes me come up with like theories when you know there's gonna be a sequel, because your like mind is running us to where's it gonna go, like how long is it gonna take, like that, like what's gonna end up happening, who's gonna be the character that's gonna like really stand out in this third film. Again, it just blows me away like that. I can't wait to watch it again. I highly recommend everybody go watch it in theaters. But to me, as of this moment, and our opinions can change. Maybe we watch it the second time. Maybe it isn't as exciting as the first time. But
we're going to make a recap.
To a recap of our second viewing.
You know what? I didn't like this movie that much.
But to me, in my personal opinion, it is a timeless movie as of today. Omar?
Nice. This movie is also a timeless movie for me. And I feel like you can watch this over and over. And even if you get tired of the story, I think simply the visuals will get you to watch it again. Yeah. That's why I think it's timeless.
Omar, if you were to think about it, knowing that it's a sequel, and you had to recommend somebody, like you say this is a film that's timeless. Hey Omar, should I watch Dune Part 1? What would you say?
I'll say, yeah. That's it. And they could take whatever they want from that. Yeah. Because it wasn't an enthusiastic yes. Yeah. If it wasn't an enthusiastic yes, they would watch it. If I said no, they wouldn't. So I'm kind of like in the middle. Yes. If you want to, you can. If you don't want to, you don't have to.
I'll ask you another question. Let's say we're getting ready, 2026, 2027, Dune Part 3 comes out. Okay. Is Omar in 2027 going to rewatch Dune Part 1 and then watch Dune Part 2? Or are you just going to go straight Dune Part 2 or not even watch anything? Just go straight Dune Part 3?
No, you know what? Damn, that's actually a good question.
Yeah. I asked the good questions then.
And you know what? I might just go back on everything I just said before. I want to start with Part 1. So I will watch Part 1 and then I'll watch Part 2. So you know what? Yeah, watch Part 1 first, then watch this movie.
Nice. I got him to change. I got him to change of heart right there. Awesome. All right, great. Well, thanks so much, everybody. I appreciate anybody that listened all the way through. Omar, I want to say thanks again, man, for joining me. I hope that you come on again more frequently. Maybe it is going to be every 5 episodes. Maybe it's going to be until there's a great movie or a terrible movie. But again, I appreciate you coming on, man, and talking about Dune Part 2.
Every 5 episodes sounds good.
It sounds good.
Regardless if it's good or bad, the movie's good or bad.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it. We got it on record now, so...
We'll see. We'll see.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. This is Timeless Movie Podcast, episode number 60. We'll catch you guys on the next episode.